morning, and welcome to the Africa Weekly Talk. Today's subject on the docket is about the three facets of Africa's socio-economic development problems that have contributed to the lack of development on the continent of Africa. And these three phases that I'm talking about are tribalism, religion, and party politics. These three, unfortunately, are also intertwined in the governance of the socio-economic and political development of African countries. So basically, you have religion and tribalism that are also part of the party politics of the African governments in most African countries, if not all of it. And out of that, this has also contributed to some of the socioeconomic development problems that Africa is going through right now. It's unfortunate, but that's the reality of it, that we have to deal with situations like this in Africa. A clear case that is happening right now is the issue going on in Ethiopia, where you have the Tigray War, as well as quite recently, a couple of a week or two ago, talking about the Christian Orthodox Church of Ethiopia, which now is also disintegrating because some of them are also accusing the government of interfering in the Christian Orthodox Church in Ethiopia. Now, this is outside of what is happening with the Tigray civil war situation. And all of these things that I'm talking about are also linked to tribalism. Because if you look at the structures of most African countries, especially when we talk about the political situation in most African countries, it is linked with tribalism. Either you link it with a tribe or you link it with religion. So basically, you have the religious factions that are aligned with a particular party, or you have a tribe that is aligned with a particular party. And these have sowed seeds of division and hatred towards one another on the continent of Africa. Now, I'm not saying that tribalism doesn't exist in other parts of the world. As a matter of fact, if you talk about the war going on in Ukraine and Russia right now, I would call it a tribal war. But they would say it's a countries fighting among each other. But at the end of the day, it's just like any tribal war where you have people that used to live together and they are fighting over stuff and all that stuff. Now, so tribalism has been part of human for over thousands of years, and it's still going to be there. But the question is, when does tribalism become a destructive part of a country's socioeconomic and political development? That is the key to it. It is not about whether we are going to have tribalism here or there. It is always going to be part of this. People are going to be biased based on tribes, are going to discriminate based on tribes. It's not going to go nowhere. But when tribalism becomes part of the governance of a country, that is where it becomes destructive. That is where it sows seeds of hatred of one tribe against another tribe. And eventually, that creates huge and serious problems like civil wars, tribal wars, and disintegration of the whole society. And that brings about most serious genocidal situations like what happened in Rwanda in 1994. So the question I have is this: can African countries also adopt this social engineering systems of educating our children growing up today, where they are going to be taught in our schools about the importance of having and respecting each tribe in your various African countries? Because this is happening. And we have a test case scenario of Rwanda in the 1994, which is the genocide. That was one of the most heinous crimes that ever happened to mankind in the 20th century, which was the Rwandan genocide. And unfortunately, the world stood by when the Hutus and the Tutsis slaughtered each other. And that is one of the biggest mistakes. As a matter of fact, Bill Clinton, who was then the president of the United States, even did mention about his not his America not involving itself in that civil war to stop that civil war, but rather sitting on the sidelines whilst these two different tribes slaughtered each other. So we all know of what comes about when countries adopt tribalism and all that stuff. And also, another case is the Nigerian Biafra War, which was about the Igbos and the Yorubas and all that stuff also. And then you have various civil wars that have happened recently, talking about the one in Ivory Coast, Sierra Leone, Liberia, and all of that. So we have test case scenarios, and we know the consequences of what this tribalism have done and caused in most African countries. So it is a good point to suggest that somehow, if we can start educating our children about the importance of respecting tribes as well as religions in our various African countries. Because if we don't start this social engineering program for our kids, I mean, from kindergarten all the way to the through to the secondary level education, we will not we should not forget that in about next 20, 30 years, this same issue will start cropping up again. And the unfortunate part of it is that in most African countries, these three phases that I mentioned, which is religion, tribalism, and party politics, are intertwined. So basically, you have a situation where the political parties know that. So they use either religion or tribalism as a way to get votes in their various African countries. And these have also contributed to some of the lack of socio-economic development in various regions of their countries because of that, either tribe or religion. And it's about time we also look at all of these problems that we are going through and try to negate these problems from our systems. But it's not going to be easy. It's going to be tough. I mean, it's not going to be an easy task because in our societies, we are ingrained to believe in this tribalism and religion and as well as party politics. But the young kids and the children yet to be born, if we have these in our educational curriculums where children and are taught about tolerance, about accepting people of different faith as well as different tribes, living side by side and building a same goal of helping develop our various African countries, then maybe one day we'll get somewhere with that. Because if you look at religion also in Africa today, to me personally, I think religion has also created some of the heinous problems that we are going through right now. Even though it hasn't really hit the whole continent of Africa, it's creeping up gradually. You have the situation of Boko Haram that has been doing a lot of damage in Nigeria, Mali, Burkina Faso, all the most countries around the Sahara, and so on and so forth, in the name of religion, slaughtering and killing other people who are they considered to be non-believers. And this has also sowed a lot of division among brothers and sisters, families, just because one person is of another faith. I mean, these are from the same tribe or the same family tree. But because one person is of the Islamic faith and the other person is from the Christian faith, somehow now they are evil people among each other. Now they are no more, they don't have any blood link anymore. Now it's because of the faith of one person, which is different from the other person. They are their enemies. And out of that, it has created a lot of hatred among brothers and sisters within the same tribe, within the same communities. So if you look at these three spaces that I mentioned, religion, tribalism, and then party politics, these are the main problems that most African countries are facing and continue to face today. But the most important aspect of it is that this thing has also created a problem in such a way that it is also creating the socio-economic development that most African countries lack in this modern world today because of these things. Because when you have these economic problem, tribalism and religious issues in your various African countries. These things also tend to create the issue of not attracting foreign investors into your various African countries. Because at the end of the day, when you have conflicts like this in your countries, what it does is that no foreign investor is going to come and invest in a country where they have tribal wars or religious wars going on. So we have to address this issue. And the only way to address this issue is to start with putting these issues at the forefront of our education institutions in most of our African countries. Because at the end of the day, if we start teaching our children, if we start teaching the children of today to understand, to be tolerant, regardless of which tribe that person is from or what religion that person is, to be tolerant, to understand that the socio-economic development of this country or of our country is not going to be based on tribes or religion. It's going to be based on us as people coming together and building that country and developing that country together. And that is where this issue has to be fought on. Has to be fought on the field of ideas about building this country together based on ideas and the socio-economic development that these ideas will bring, so that it will benefit everybody, but not just based on because somebody is from this tribe or somebody is of this religion and all that stuff. Now, the second aspect of this issue is that the most important aspect of it is that if you look at the party politics that is going on in most African countries today, the most dangerous aspect of it is the party politics. And the party politics is the most dangerous aspect of it because the politicians also understand the impact of religion as well as tribalism in their communities or their various African countries. Some of them tend to use these rifts that exist in our cultures. And out of that they use this rift to get votes, to get in power. This is the most dangerous aspect of everything in terms of our socio-economic development. And by doing that, it sowed the most dangerous seeds. Okay? It sowed the most dangerous seeds within our communities. So this disease of tribalism will never go away. As far as we have these political leaders who believe in sowing seeds and divisions among tribes as well as religious groups in your various African countries. So if we want to move on from this situation and these problems, then we have to start holding our political leaders accountable. We have to start holding them accountable because that is the only way that these things are going to stop. And number two is education. Like I stated earlier, we have to start educating our children to be tolerant, for them to understand that the country that we live in as a whole is for everybody. It's for everybody to help develop that country so that we all benefit from the socio-economic development that comes into place for our various African countries. So if we're able to educate our children to understand that, and then by the ages of maybe 15, 16, 17, 18 upwards, when they have that understanding already, hopefully, not every child is going to take that. I know that. I get that. I mean, definitely you're going to have some that will still be tilting towards their religious or tribal beliefs and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, if you're able to get a certain percentage, a reasonable percentage, that can make a big difference in African economic, now socio-economic development and so on and so forth. Because if we as Africans, if we still continue to become emotionally attached to our tribe, religion, and our party leanings to the point that the truth and justice becomes secondary consideration to our mind and thoughts, then our education will become useless and our exposure will become useless. And if you cannot reason beyond petty sentiments, you are just a liability to mankind and your community. And we don't want that. We want economic development. We want the development of Africa to be good for everybody, not for just a certain group of people or religion. So if it's Sunday, it's the Africa Weekly Talk, but hopefully some of these issues going on in most various African countries can be addressed peacefully, especially what is happening in Ethiopia right now, in terms of the Christian Orthodox Church, and also with the issue of the Tigray. I mean, even though they are moving in the right direction, but anytime you have little issues start cropping up, that little issues can become big, and eventually that can tear a country apart. Ethiopia has one of the biggest tribal ethnicities in Africa. I mean, I think, if I'm not mistaken, about 80 different tribes. And you have people who speak from the Bodi tribe, for the Bena tribe, the Oromo tribe, I mean, Amhara tribe, and all of that. So, and they've had divisions among themselves for some time now. I mean, it goes way back. But at the end of the day, we live in a modern world today. And all this is about education, the social engineering of the mind of the children growing up, or the children to be born. When we start teaching them these things in our educational curriculums in Africa, to educate them to understand the importance of tribal unity and religious unity. If we start doing that, then hopefully one day we wouldn't have to be dealing with these issues of tribalism and religious divisions that is starting to crop up in most African countries. So if it's Sunday, it's the Africa Weekly Talk. God bless you guys, and thank you guys for listening. Peace and love, and God bless you.